The chamber of the War Council on the formidable dreadnought Eternal Fang reeked of triumph and overconfidence, a truly ill-fated combination, as events would soon reveal. My name is Krell Vosh, the Supreme Military Coordinator for the Galactic Concordance, and I have orchestrated the subjugation of 47 worlds. 47. That figure once commanded respect. It made younger species tremble and older ones nod with solemn acknowledgement. But then we discovered Earth, and suddenly my impressive resume seemed like a child's crayon scrawl next to a masterpiece. Yet, I'm getting ahead of myself. Allow me to transport you back to the precise moment when everything began to unravel in a spectacularly horrifying manner. "The primitives have received their ultimatum," General Quinn declared, his 4 eyes gleaming with what I can only describe as malicious delight. 72 standard cycles to surrender unconditionally, or we shall reduce their cities to glass. A chorus of clicks, chirps, and satisfied hisses erupted within the council chamber. 3 days. We had granted the humans 3 days. It struck me as quite generous. Frankly, most species we encountered didn't even merit a formal warning. We simply materialized, demonstrated our superior firepower by atomizing a moon or two, and observed them scrambling to sign the surrender documents. "Their military capabilities are laughable," Thax Quinn continued, projecting holographic data streams that depicted Earth as the galactic equivalent of a soft target. Primitive chemical propulsion, nuclear weapons they actually consider devastating, no energy shields, no plasma weaponry. They haven't even achieved faster-than-light travel on their own. I reclined in my command throne, my sensory tendrils twitching with satisfaction. "Have they responded to our message?" I inquired. "Yes, Coordinator." Thax Quinn's voice held a hint of amusement. "They have requested a formal meeting. They wish to send an ambassador to negotiate terms." The chamber filled with the Concordance's unique form of laughter, a chittering, buzzing sound that made the air vibrate. Negotiate? I couldn't help but marvel at their audacity. What exactly do they believe they possess to negotiate with? "Apparently," Science Officer Meltoria interjected, her scales shimmering with barely concealed mirth, "they believe they can convince us to reconsider." "Humor them," I decided, waving a manipulator appendage dismissively. "Let them dispatch their ambassador. It will be amusing to witness their pleas. Perhaps we can record it for the archives. Future conquests always appreciate seeing how their predecessors groveled, or how the universe delights in punishing arrogance." The human ambassador arrived precisely 12 standard cycles later, which surprised me. Most species spent their precious deadline time either in panic or mounting desperate, futile defensive operations. But the humans? They dispatched a representative immediately, calm as could be. The shuttle that docked with our flagship was absurdly primitive. I watched its approach on the view screen, a clunky metallic box, seemingly held together by hope and questionable engineering. It even had visible rivets, like something from a museum exhibit on pre-industrial spaceflight. "Should we scan it for weapons?" Security Chief Ward Kiss inquired, his battle armor gleaming under the chamber lights. "Please," I scoffed. "What are they going to do? Hurl rocks at us?" Note to self, never utter such words. The universe is listening, and it possesses a wicked sense of humor. The human who emerged from the shuttle was not what I had expected. And believe me, after conquering 47 worlds, I presumed I had witnessed everything. She was small by concordant standards, barely reaching the mid-thorax of most council members. Her hair was an unusual shade of auburn, pulled back in what humans call a ponytail. She wore a simple black suit, no armor, no visible weapons, No technological enhancements, just fabric and composure. What struck me most were her eyes, bluer green like Earth's oceans, and completely serene. Not the false calm of someone feigning bravery, but a genuine, profound tranquility, as if she were attending a routine business meeting instead of negotiating for the survival of her entire species. "Hello," she stated, her voice clear and steady through the translation matrix. "My name is Ambassador Victoria Grant. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Polite. She was being polite. I glanced at Thax Quinn, who looked equally perplexed. "Ambassador Grant," I began, ensuring my voice carried the appropriate weight of absolute authority. "I am Supreme Military Coordinator Krell Vosh. Do you comprehend the situation your world faces?" "Yes. Total surrender within 60 cycles, or annihilation." "I comprehend perfectly." She smiled. Actually smiled. "That is precisely what I wish to discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Quinn interjected, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Your species will submit to concordance rule, or you will be eliminated. These are your only options." Victoria Grant turned to face him directly, her smile unfaltering. "General, with all due respect, I believe you have misunderstood who is surrendering to whom." The chamber fell silent. Not the anticipatory silence preceding violence, but the stunned quiet of beings who couldn't quite process what they had just heard. "I beg your pardon?" I managed to articulate, my voice choked with disbelief. "Let me clarify." Victoria produced a small data pad from her jacket, a primitive device likely outperformed by a Concordian child's toy. "You have given Earth 72 hours to surrender. I am here to offer you a counter-proposal." A counter-proposal? I repeated the words slowly, testing them, because surely I had misheard through the translator. "Yes." She tapped her data pad, and a holographic image appeared above it, a star map. "You surrender to us within the next 3 standard cycles, or we dismantle your concordance, piece by piece." If the previous silence was stunned, this one was utterly flabbergasted. Thax Quinn made a choking sound. Meltoria's scales turned completely pale. Even Voral Kess, who had confronted armed insurgencies unflinchingly, took a step backward. I should have been infuriated. I should have been insulted. Instead, I felt a strange prickling sensation along my neural ridge, the concordance equivalent of a warning bell. "You cannot be serious," I said quietly. "Deadly serious." Victoria's smile acquired an edge, something sharp and dangerous lurking beneath the pleasant exterior. "See, you made several critical errors in your assessment of humanity. Errors that, quite frankly, are going to cost you everything." "We have studied your species extensively," Meltoria protested, her scientific pride wounded. "We know your capabilities. You are primitives playing with nuclear fire." "You studied what we let you study," Victoria corrected, and there was that edge again, cutting through the pretense. "You scanned our surface, analyzed our broadcasts, and concluded we were easy prey. You never bothered to look deeper." "Deeper?" I couldn't help myself. Despite the absurdity of the situation, I was curious. Victoria's smile widened. "Tell me, Coordinator, in all your conquest of 47 worlds, have you ever encountered a species that achieved nuclear weapons before achieving flight?" I paused. "No." "Have you ever encountered a species that went from first powered flight to landing on their own moon in 66 years? That would be unprecedented." "Have you ever encountered a species that literally threw themselves into space on top of controlled explosions because they were too impatient to wait for better technology?" Thax Quinn made a dismissive gesture. Recklessness is not strength. No, Victoria agreed pleasantly. But it is an indicator. See, every other species you have conquered developed logically, methodically. They advanced their technology in measured steps, always prioritizing safety and efficiency. They were reasonable. And humans are not reasonable? I asked, though I was beginning to suspect I knew the answer. Coordinator, we are the least reasonable species you will ever meet. Victoria's eyes glinted with something that made my sensory tendrils retract involuntarily. We are the species that domesticated wolves because we thought it would be fun. We are the species that looked at the deadliest animals on our planet and decided to ride them, eat them, or make them into pets. Sometimes all three. This is irrelevant, snapped Quinn, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Is it? Victoria turned to face him again. You scanned Earth's surface and saw primitive missiles and conventional armies. You saw what we wanted you to see. You never asked yourselves why a species with our technological level has a space station, or why that space station is so unnecessarily large. Meltoria's scales flickered through several colors, a sign of deep unease. You are bluffing. Am I? Victoria tapped her datapad again. Do you want to know what we keep on that unnecessarily large space station, Science Officer? Enlighten us, I said, because at this point, what else could I do? Kinetic kill vehicles, thousands of them. Tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, positioned in orbital weapons platforms that you dismissed as communication satellites. No explosives, no power source, no energy signature to detect, just mass and velocity. We call them rods from God. The chamber had grown very, very quiet. You are lying, Thax Quinn asserted, but he sounded uncertain now. Drop one from orbit, let gravity do the work, and it hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon. No radiation, no fallout, just kinetic energy. We have been building them for 30 years, and you never noticed because you were looking for sophisticated threats. You never considered that humans would weaponize gravity itself. I felt a cold sensation spreading through my core. That is barbaric. That is human. Victoria's smile was gone now, replaced by an expression of absolute seriousness. We have been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars. We recognized it was only a matter of time before an encounter occurred. Such is the nature of the universe. Consequently, we made preparations. Even if your assertions are accurate, I contended, striving for a logical argument. You couldn't possibly possess enough of these armaments to imperil our entire fleet. You are precise, Victoria affirmed agreeably. The orbital platforms merely serve as a preliminary greeting, Matt. Would you care for an exposition on Project Scorched Earth? I had no desire to know. Every instinct within me screamed to terminate this dialogue, to obliterate this insufferable human with her preposterous claims. Yet, I needed answers. I had to comprehend the magnitude of our misstep. Explain to me, she commenced, her voice as casual as if discussing meteorological phenomena openly. Every major nation on Earth maintains a nuclear arsenal. We profess to be diminishing these weapons, striving for disarmament. In reality, we've been retrofitting and upgrading them. We possess intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching orbit. Coordinator, do you grasp the implications? A choked sound escaped male Torren. You wouldn't dare. We absolutely would, Victoria declared, her voice turning to ice. Every vessel in your armada is currently targeted by multiple nuclear warheads equipped with orbital thrusters. Not our most sophisticated weaponry, mind you, not our latest technological marvels, just good old-fashioned atomic bombs. Hundreds of them, all aimed directly at you. You granted us 3 days. We required 3 hours. This is utter madness. Breathe. Appreciate it, Quinn. This is, in fact, lunacy. Mutually assured destruction. It's a doctrine we formulated during our Cold War. The fundamental principle is straightforward. If you possess the power to annihilate me, and I possess the power to annihilate you, and we both recognize that neither can prevail, then no one engages in combat. Except we adapted it for spatial conflict. I struggled to articulate words. You would sacrifice yourselves without hesitation. Victoria's certitude was absolute. Humanity has a saying, Coordinator. If we're going down, we're taking you with us. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We fight until there's nothing left to wield, and then we fight with whatever remains. You cannot eradicate our entire concordance with nuclear weapons, I interjected, attempting to salvage some vestige of our strategic supremacy. No, but we can obliterate your fleet, and while your fleet burns, our transmissions are already propagating across this sector, demonstrating to every other species in the concordance precisely how to construct our weapons. Kinetic kill vehicles, orbital nuclear platforms, every devious tactic we've honed over centuries of conflict, all freely disseminated. How many of your conquered worlds do you think will remain subdued once they realize they can retaliate? The implication struck me with the force of a physical blow. The concordance maintained control through technological superiority and military might. If humans shared their weapon designs, every subjugated world would acquire the means to rebel. The entire edifice would crumble. This is blackmail, I uttered weakly. This is negotiation, Victoria corrected. You sought to conquer Earth because we appeared vulnerable. We are now illustrating why that was a catastrophically flawed assessment. Now, permit me to outline your actual options. She raised a single digit. Option 1. You withdraw your fleet immediately, depart our solar system, and never return. In exchange, we refrain from vaporizing your vessels. We do not share our weapon technology, and we pretend this embarrassing incident never transpired. A second finger extended. Option 2. You attack us, and we annihilate your fleet. Some of our cities will perish. Millions of humans will die. But we guarantee to transmit all our weapon schematics to every species within communication range before our demise. The concordance will face system-wide rebellion and ultimately collapse. A third finger rose. Option 3, and this is my personal favorite, you surrender to us. Acknowledge that humanity is unconquerable, sign a mutual defense pact. Share your faster-than-light technology. In return, we assist you in maintaining order within the concordance. Because here's the reality, Coordinator. We are exceptionally proficient at warfare. Frighteningly so. We've been honing our craft on each other for thousands of years. I stared at this diminutive human, this impossible being who had entered our war council and systematically dismantled every preconception we held. You're bluffing, I tried one last time. Victoria Grant smiled again, and this time there was nothing agreeable about it. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its quarry. Would you care to put that theory to the test? She inquired softly. Because I assure you, Coordinator, you granted us 3 days to surrender. You will not endure 3 seconds if you instigate conflict. The silence stretched. Every entity in that chamber was performing the same calculation, the same dreadful, inescapable arithmetic. Could we defeat Earth? Probably. Our weaponry was more advanced. Our ships were swifter. Our technology surpassed theirs in every quantifiable aspect. But could we truly win? That was the crucial question. For victory entailed more than merely vanquishing the adversary. It meant surviving to savor the triumph. And if humans could achieve even half of what this ambassador asserted, the cost would be ruinous. Worse, if they shared their weapon designs, the price would be civilization ending. I gazed at Victoria Grant, standing there in her rudimentary textile attire, unarmed and utterly self-assured. And a profound realization dawned upon me. Humanity had not been preparing for peace. They had been preparing for war since the dawn of their existence, since the day they first gazed skyward and pondered what lay beyond. They had been anticipating us, and we had just committed the greatest error in Concordance history by furnishing them with a pretext to unleash everything they had been withholding. "How much time do we have to deliberate?" I asked softly. Victoria checked her primitive wristwatch, an antiquated mechanical device with moving components. "You afforded us 72 hours. I shall grant you 72 minutes. I suggest you utilize them judiciously." She turned and proceeded towards the exit, her footsteps resonating in the utterly silent chamber. At the doorway, she paused and cast a glance back over her shoulder. "Oh, and Coordinator, one more thing." "Yes?" My voice sounded hollow, even to my own auditory senses. "Everything I've disclosed to you today, that is what we are willing to reveal. That is the technology we do not object to you knowing about. Imagine what we are concealing." Then she was gone, leaving 47 conquerors seated in stunned silence, contemplating the horrifying prospect that we had not discovered a primitive world ripe for conquest. We had disturbed a dormant behemoth, and it was smiling. The 72 minutes following Ambassador Victoria Grant's departure were, without exaggeration, the most protracted of my entire military career. And I have endured 3 distinct assassination attempts, a plasma core breach, and that incident on Kellor 9 that we no longer speak of. The War Council chamber had transformed from a place of confident superiority into something akin to a mortuary. Everyone observed everyone else, awaiting someone, anyone, to utter something that would lend coherence to what had just transpired. Thax Quinn broke the silence first, which was characteristic. The general had never encountered an uncomfortable silence he couldn't fill with aggressive posturing. "This is preposterous," he announced, slamming one of his primary appendages against the tactical display. "We are permitting ourselves to be intimidated by a single unarmed primitive. We command the most formidable military force in 7 sectors. We ought to vaporize their planet and be done with it." "And if she was being truthful about the nuclear weapons?" Melterin inquired softly. Her scales had assumed a sickly grey hue, indicative of profound stress. "If they can reach our vessels, then we activate defensive shields and shoot them down," Quinn retorted. "We possess point defense systems specifically designed for missile interception." "Designed for missiles traveling at conventional speeds," I pointed out, my voice flat. "Nuclear weapons descending from orbit would be traveling at terminal velocity. Multiple warheads, simultaneous impact vectors, primitive guidance systems that our sensors might not even register as threats until it's too late." Voro Kisses, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "I conducted probability simulations while the human was speaking." His voice lacked its customary martial confidence. "If Earth launches even 50 nuclear weapons at this fleet, and if those weapons are positioned in orbital platforms as she claimed, our point defense systems would intercept approximately 68% of them. 68% represents acceptable losses, declared Dax Quinn. Acceptable? Voral Kiss's battle armor produced a grinding sound as he turned to face the general. That signifies 32% would impact 16 nuclear detonations across our fleet. At a minimum, we would lose 8 capital ships and sustain critical damage to another 12. That is nearly 40% of our strike force, General. And that's assuming they only launch 50 weapons. The human mentioned hundreds. The chamber fell silent once more. Mathematics possesses a way of cutting through bravado like a plasma torch through hull plating. There is another factor we must consider, added Melterin, pulling up data streams with trembling manipulators. I have been analyzing Earth's technological development curve. The rate of advancement is unsettling. How so? I leaned forward, my sensory tendrils entirely focused on her. Most species adhere to a logarithmic growth pattern, steady, predictable advancement over millennia. But humans? She highlighted a graph that resembled less a curve and more a precipitous cliff face. They progressed from horse-drawn carriages to nuclear weapons in 150 years, from no flight capability to landing on their moon in 66 years. As the ambassador noted, from their first orbital satellite to a permanent space station in 43 years. Your point? Demanded Thax Quinn. My point, General, is that their rate of advancement is exponential, accelerating. A chill once more coursed through me as I absorbed the implications. If this trajectory persisted, and they managed to reverse engineer our faster-than-light technology, they could attain parity with our capabilities within a single generation, possibly even sooner. Are you suggesting that if we don't intervene, they will inevitably pose a threat? I asked. Meltar corrected, I'm stating that humanity is already a threat. We simply failed to recognize it because we were evaluating them against our own developmental benchmarks. By our standards, they should still be grappling with basic spaceflight. Yet they have weaponized their entire orbital domain and forged a military doctrine founded on the premise of eventually confronting superior forces. They've been preparing for us, I murmured, the full weight of the revelation settling upon me. Not humanity in general, not someday. They've been specifically readying themselves for the moment a technologically advanced force would attempt to subjugate them. It explains their nuclear arsenals, Voral Kess mused. They possess weapons capable of obliterating their own planet multiple times over. What species does that unless they're planning to use them against someone else? A species that anticipates being attacked, I retorted. A species that has delved into its own history and concluded that the strong invariably prey on the weak. So they made themselves formidable enough to make the cost of predation intolerable. Thax Quinn was now agitatedly pacing, his 4 legs moving in restless circles. So, Coordinator, what do you propose? That we simply capitulate, accept degradation, and permit a primitive world to dictate terms to the Galactic Concordance? I propose we consider the actual strategic situation instead of reacting with wounded pride. I snapped back. Ambassador Grant offered us 3 options. Let's analyze them dispassionately. I activated a holographic display, presenting the scenarios. Option 1. We withdraw. We lose face, but our fleet remains intact. Our concordance stays stable, and humanity has no incentive to share their weapon technology with our subjugated worlds. The status quo persists. -1 potential conquest. Unacceptable, Dax Quinn roared. Option 2. We attack. Best case scenario. We neutralize Earth's military capabilities before they can deploy their weapons. We might lose around 10% of our fleet to conventional defenses. Worst-case scenario, they unleash everything. We lose 40% of our fleet. They still broadcast their weapon data across the sector, and we spend the next decade quelling rebellions on every conquered world. Also unacceptable, Dax Quinn conceded, though his voice carried less conviction. Option 3. We accept their surrender terms. We provide faster-than-light technology. We establish a mutual defense pact. We gain access to their unconventional weapon development in exchange for making them a protected rather than a conquered member of the Concordance. That isn't conquest, Quinn protested. That's an alliance. Precisely, I affirmed. Which means it's not what we came here to achieve, but it might be the most astute move available. Miltarin slowly nodded, her scales gradually regaining their healthy hue. An alliance with Earth would have certain advantages. Their weapon technology, though primitive, is highly innovative. Kinetic kill vehicles require no power source and are nearly undetectable. That alone would be valuable in asymmetric warfare scenarios. Plus, Voral Kess thoughtfully added, if humans are as adept at warfare as they claim, having them as allies instead of enemies makes tactical sense. Better to have the crazy species who weaponizes gravity on our side. I observed my war council, witnessing the real-time shift in their perspective. We had arrived as conquerors, confident in our superiority. Now, we were scrambling to extricate ourselves from this predicament without disaster. We need more information, I commanded. Miltarin, I want a comprehensive analysis of everything we know about human military history. Every war they've fought, every weapon they've developed. I want to know if Ambassador Grant was exaggerating, or if we're genuinely facing a species that out-militarizes the Concordance. On it, Coordinator, she responded, already retrieving data streams, her manipulators rapidly traversing the interface. Vorokes, run additional combat simulations, every conceivable scenario. I want to know our exact odds in a full engagement. Understood. Dax Quinn, review our intelligence on the conquered worlds. How many have the industrial capacity to construct human-style weapons, if provided with the technical specifications? The general's aggressive posture had dissipated, replaced by grim professionalism. At least 23 worlds possess sufficient manufacturing infrastructure. More if they cooperate with each other. So, if humanity shares their weapon data, we potentially face 24 simultaneous rebellions, all armed with weapons specifically designed to counteract our technological advantages. Correct. I leaned back in my command throne, the weight of command pressing down on me like a physical force. 47 worlds conquered, an unblemished record of military success. And now, one small blue planet was poised to either end my career or redefine it entirely. How much time has elapsed? I inquired. 43 minutes, Voral Kess reported. 29 minutes left to make a decision that will determine the fate of the Concordance. Mel Torren suddenly emitted a sharp whistling sound, her expression of alarm. Coordinator, you need to see this. She projected a holographic timeline, thousands of data points representing human military conflicts. I watched, mesmerized, as the pattern emerged. They have been in a state of warfare for 92% of their recorded history, Meltorin said, her voice hushed with something akin to awe. 92%, Coordinator. They have almost never been at peace. That's barbaric, Fax breathed. That's experience, I corrected. Look at the tactical innovation. Every conflict introduces new weapons, new strategies, chemical weapons, biological agents, nuclear bombs, guided missiles, stealth technology, cyber warfare. They don't just fight war, they revolutionize warfare with every engagement. Voral Kess was highlighting specific conflicts. This one, their Second World War, 60 million casualties. They developed radar, jet engines, ballistic missiles, and nuclear weapons, all within 6 years. 6 years of technological advancement that would take most species 6 decades. Here, Melterin added, pointing to another data cluster, their Cold War. They didn't fight directly, so instead they transformed their entire civilization into a weapon development laboratory. Intercontinental missiles, satellite surveillance, stealth aircraft, computer encryption, all developed during a period of so-called peace. I was beginning to grasp something profoundly unsettling about humanity. They didn't simply prepare for war when war was imminent. They lived in a constant state of readiness, perpetually developing, perpetually innovating, always assuming the next conflict was merely over the horizon. Because for them, it always was. Pull up their cultural data, I ordered. Entertainment, media, literature, art. Melterin complied, inundating the display with information. Movies, books, games, all centered on conflict. Alien invasions were a prominent theme. Dozens of scenarios where humanity faced extinction from superior forces. They fantasize about this, I declared, the realization striking me. They craft entertainment about being invaded, conquered, nearly annihilated, and then retaliating. Ambassador Grant didn't devise those strategies during this crisis. Her entire species has been theorizing, planning, and preparing for this exact scenario for generations. It's their dominant cultural narrative, Melterin confirmed. The underdog who defeats the overwhelming force, the primitive species that outsmarts the advanced empire. They've recounted this story so many times that they believe it. More than believe it, I interjected. They've made it their operational doctrine. Fax Quinn had ceased pacing. He was staring at the cultural data with what I can only describe as horrified fascination. We picked a fight with a species whose favorite pastime is envisioning how to defeat us. Worse, I said. We picked a fight with a species that has been unified by nothing except external threats. Look at their history. Constant internal warfare, thousands of separate nations and factions. But the moment they face an outside enemy, they unify instantly, completely. Voral Kess pulled up recent transmissions from Earth. Coordinator, since our ultimatum, every major human nation has ceased all hostilities with each other. Trade disputes resolved, territorial conflicts suspended, political divisions set aside. They have formed a unified planetary defense in less than 72 hours. Of course they have, I said bitterly. We did exactly what would make them most dangerous. We gave them a common enemy. The timer displayed 18 minutes remaining. Combat simulation results are complete, announced Voral Kess. He did not sound pleased. In every scenario where we initiate hostilities, we suffer unacceptable losses. Even our best-case projections result in 30% fleet casualties. Worst-case scenarios project total fleet annihilation. How? Demanded Fax Quinn. They are primitives. They are primitives who fight dirty, Voral Kess corrected. The simulations account for conventional warfare, but humans do not fight conventionally. According to their military history, they employ tactics like kamikaze attacks, suicide bombings, and scorched earth policies. They will sacrifice everything to win. Not to win, I said quietly, understanding finally dawning. To ensure their enemy loses. There is a difference. Meltaran was nodding, her scales rippling with patterns of deep unease. Their nuclear doctrine is not about victory. It is about ensuring mutual destruction. They are willing to die if it means taking their enemy with them. That is not rational behavior. It is perfectly rational, I argued. If your adversary is certain of your retaliation, even if it means your demise, they lose their ability to threaten you. You become impregnable because the cost of engaging you is intolerable. Ambassador Grant conveyed a mathematical certainty, not a bluff. 10 minutes remained. I surveyed the War Council, observing the same dawning awareness on every face. We hadn't stumbled upon a primitive society. We had discovered one that had chosen to appear rudimentary while clandestinely preparing for interstellar conflict. Option 3, I finally declared. We accept their stipulations. Coordinator Thax Quinn's voice was strained, yet he offered no resistance. He possessed the same aptitude for interpreting tactical displays as anyone else. The other council members will not comprehend. Our standing will suffer. Our standing will endure, I countered. Our fleet, however, might not. Furthermore, consider the advantages we gain. Expedited access to unconventional weapon technology, a military alliance with a species adept at asymmetric warfare, and, most crucially, we avoid setting a precedent where subjugated worlds realize they can resist us. You mean we avoid providing them a blueprint for rebellion? Inquired Mellorin. Precisely. If we crush Earth, every subdued species will access their weapon data and commence constructing kinetic kill vehicles and orbital nuclear platforms. If we embrace Earth as an ally, the other worlds will perceive business as usual. The concordance remains stable. Voris was examining the alliance terms. The humans are requesting faster-than-light technology and full membership within the concordance. In exchange, they offer military support and technological cooperation. Accept it, I decided. All of it. The Council will demand explanations, Thax Quinn cautioned. Then I will explain that we encountered a species capable of inflicting catastrophic damage upon our fleet, and instead of depleting resources in a Pyrrhic victory, we secured them as allies. Any council member who objects is welcome to come here and battle the humans themselves. 5 minutes remained. Send a message to Ambassador Grant. Inform her that the Galactic Concordance accepts Earth's terms. We will finalize a mutual defense pact and furnish the requested technology. In return, Earth will maintain the confidentiality of their weapon systems and provide military consultation as required. Melterin hesitated. Coordinator, are we certain this is judicious? Once they possess faster-than-light technology, they will proliferate throughout the galaxy. In a generation, perhaps 2, they could rival the Concordance itself. I know, I replied softly, but contemplate the alternative. If we attack them now, we forge an adversary that will never cease, never forgive, and never forget. They will reconstruct, they will innovate, and eventually they will pursue us with armaments we cannot yet conceive. It is preferable to have them within the Concordance, where we can oversee them and benefit from their expertise. You are afraid of them, Thax Quinn stated. It wasn't an accusation. It was an insight. Terrified, I freely confessed. And that is precisely why this is the correct decision. Fear is the appropriate response to a species that weaponizes gravity, possesses sufficient nuclear armaments to sterilize their own planet, and views mutually assured destruction as a viable defensive strategy. 2 minutes remained, and the communication console chimed. Ambassador Victoria Grant's image materialized on the view screen, her calm, confident demeanor unwavering. Coordinator Kel Voss, she greeted me. I trust you have had adequate time to weigh your options. We accept your terms, Ambassador, I stated, managing to maintain a steady voice. The Galactic Concordance welcomes Earth as a full member species. We will provide faster-than-light technology and acknowledge your sovereignty. In return, Earth will uphold operational security regarding your weapon systems and offer military consultation upon request. Victoria Grant's smile broadened, and I recognized something in her gaze that filled me with profound relief at our decision. Not triumph, not gloating, simply satisfaction that her strategy had unfolded precisely as planned. "Excellent choice, Coordinator," she remarked warmly. "I believe this marks the inception of a highly productive partnership. We anticipate collaborating with the Concordance." "As do we," I smoothly lied. Then, compelled by curiosity, I posed the question that had plagued me since her departure. "Ambassador Grant, everything you conveyed to us about your weapon capabilities, was it all accurate?" Her smile regained its dangerous edge. Would it truly matter if it were not? And there it was, the beautiful, terrifying truth of human strategy. It was irrelevant whether they actually possessed thousands of kinetic kill vehicles or hundreds of orbital nuclear platforms. All that mattered was our conviction that they did. And that conviction was sufficient to alter our course of action. Perhaps they were bluffing. Perhaps their capabilities were precisely as claimed. Perhaps they harbored even more, concealed and awaiting the opportune moment to manifest. We would never ascertain with certainty, and that uncertainty would forever protect them. "No," I admitted. "It would not matter whatsoever." "Then I suggest we concentrate on the future rather than the past," Victoria diplomatically offered. "I will transmit the formal treaty documents for your perusal. I believe you will find the terms quite equitable." The transmission concluded, leaving the War Council in reflective silence. We were just outmaneuvered by a species that hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel, Thax Quinn finally articulated. "Yes," I agreed. "Yes, we were." "What do we convey to the other Concordance members?" inquired Fourcase. I pondered for a moment, then made my decision. "We tell them the truth. We tell them we encountered a species so militarily innovative, so strategically sophisticated, and so fundamentally unpredictable that conquest would have been catastrophically expensive. We tell them that we made the intelligent choice to recruit them instead of fighting them." "And if they don't believe us?" pressed Melterin. "Then we will present them with the combat simulations. We will present them with the cultural data. We will present them with a species that has devoted its entire existence to preparing for war. And then we will allow them to draw their own conclusions." I rose from my command throne, feeling older and wiser than I had 72 minutes prior. "Transmit the order to the fleet. We are withdrawing from Earth's solar system. Navigation, plot a course back to Concordance space. Communications, prepare a full report for the High Council." As the crew moved to execute my directives, I cast one final glance at the blue planet serenely rotating on the view screen. From this vantage point, it appeared so innocent, so innocuous. We had nearly made a fatal error by trusting that appearance. Humanity had imparted a valuable lesson to the Galactic Concordance today. Never, ever assess a species solely by its technological level. Because sometimes the primitives are only primitive in the aspects that don't matter, and absolutely terrifying in the aspects that do. 3 days until surrender, Ambassador Grant had been informed. 3 seconds, she had vowed, was all we would endure if we made the erroneous choice. Reviewing the tactical data, the combat projections, the sheer innovative brutality of human warfare doctrine, I suspected her estimate had been generous. The Concordance had conquered 47 worlds. Earth would have been the 48th. Instead, Earth became the first world to conquer us without firing a single shot. And somehow, that felt entirely appropriate.